What are the key elements of a really good advertising campaign?
When I answer the question of what really makes a good advertising campaign, I always go back to the beginning and ask the question, what is the person who's paying for the campaign trying to achieve? What is that person's objectives? What is it that that person wants to happen as a result of spending money on this advertising campaign? So in order to decide whether it is good or bad, it is first of all most important to understand what it is that the campaign must try and achieve. Some people might say, well, that's obvious, to sell more goods, to sell more services, to sell more bottles of Coca-Cola or jeans, and often, of course, it is simply to sell more of a product, but not always. Sometimes it is to change the image of a company. Sometimes it is to change people's views of an issue. Sometimes it is to get people to drink less alcohol, to do up their seatbelts, to change the way in which they use energy. So good or bad advertising campaign depends on what it is there to achieve.
Can you take us through the typical planning and launch stages of a campaign?
So when we look at the different stages of a campaign, we tend to start always with the briefing. The first stage is to identify the brief from the client and to agree the brief with the client. It is at this stage that we tend to agree the objectives I referred to earlier. What will make the client happy after this campaign has been aired. The second stage is then to take that brief and articulate it for the people in our organisations who have to make recommendations and have ideas about the campaign itself. At this stage, we brief creative people to come up with ideas and media people to have ideas about which channels those ideas will be seen in. The third stage will be the presentation of those ideas to the client. There is then some debate. That debate process can go on for quite a long time until there's agreement. At that point of agreement, we get into the execution phase. The execution phase is where we then produce the creative material and buy the space and places in the channels of distribution for that material.
Can you give us an example of a successful new media campaign?
One of the most successful new media campaigns, and from one of the clients that uses new media best, is Nike. Nike, of course, have a young audience who are very literate about the new media and therefore live their lives in that medium. And so rather than simply use advertising on television to talk to this youthful audience, what Nike does is they start seeding viral campaigns. And viral campaigns are pieces of film, pieces of content, which they hope will be picked up by individuals who see it, perhaps on YouTube, and passed on to their friends with comments to say, look at this piece of film, isn't it fantastic? Perhaps the most famous piece of Nike viral was Ronaldinho, the footballer, appearing to be able to lob the ball directly onto the goal bar and it bouncing back to him 10 times. A piece of outrageous skill which was just about believable, and then the viral campaign actually became about, was it real or was it faked? So what is not only an entertaining piece of film, but it generated its own PR, public relations exercise, it generated its own gossip on the web. The answer was, it was fake.